CNT125, Network Management and Wireless Lab. Before we move on, just a reminder, you might want to save or submit your laptop screenshot showing you connected to your access point, and then also the access point configuration, the status page, that picture as well. You might want to submit both of those while you have them so you don't forget about it. All right, moving on. We're now going to add some SNMP configuration, network management configuration, to our switch and our router. That way, they can report to us incidents or things that are happening in the network. So we're going to, I'm consoling into my switch now. So I'm back at the switch. We'll do enable class. We're going to add some configuration on here so the switch will let me know what's going on in the network to help me with managing and doing what I need to do day in and day out. So configure terminal or config T. We're now going to say SNMP server community CNT read only. We're going to make this switch a member of the CNT community, and we'll make the router a member of the CNT community. And we're going to share information just read only. We're not going to do read write, just read only. We're going to say SNMP server enable informs. Now, some of the switches allow this, some of them don't. Some of the routers allow this, some of them don't. So we'll try it. But if it errors out, not a big deal. And this one errors out. That's fine. Some of the newer OSs don't allow this. The older OSs did. We do definitely want to SNMP server enable traps. We definitely want to enable traps on these. Traps are the messages that the router and switch generates on their own, letting us know that there's a particular problem. We now need to tell it where to send these. So SNMP server, we need to do host. And we're going to plug in the address of, okay, let me get my map handy. We want to plug in the address of this node right here. We're going to take one of our PCs and put it in VLAN 1 and give it a static IP so it can receive these messages. So we're going to have them send to 0.10. 0.10. Okay? And we also need to designate that this belongs to the CNT community as well. Okay? We now need to let the switch know what direction you're going to send these. Where are you going to send these? What direction? So we're going to tell it trap source, meaning where it's going to generate it from, is going to be VLAN 1. That's where we have the IP addresses assigned. That's the IP address that's on this network. So we're going to say VLAN 1 is the source for these. We're going to say exit. We'll do a show run. And we're going to see a bunch of config added down here at the bottom. Okay, here's our SNMP community. Here's the trap source. Down here, eventually, we'll see the host. Okay, so that's all new config. Copy, run, start on this guy. Okay. Let's move the console cable into the router, and we're going to do a very similar configuration on the router. Only a slight difference when we do the router. So I'm console into the router now. Config T. Scrolling down here. Same thing, community. SNMP server community CNT read only. SNMP server enable. It probably will error out on the informs. That's fine. But we are going to enable traps. That's the big one. That's the one we really want. Host. SNMP server host. 192.168.0.10 CNT community. We need this trap source, SNMP server trap source. And this one we need to, we'll look at our map. The router is going to generate it out this interface to go to VLAN 1. So we need it coming out of this subinterface, gigabit 000.1, so it goes out VLAN 1. Because we don't want it going to all these people over here. We want the messages going to the admin. So this needs to be gigabit Ethernet 0/0/0.1 for VLAN 1. Okay, so we will do exit on this guy, we'll do a show run on this guy, and we're going to see a bunch of config added down here at the bottom of this one as well. Here's all of our SNMP configuration. There's the community, there's the trap source. Down here at the bottom will eventually be the host. These are all the traps it's going to generate for us. A lot of stuff. In real life, you'd be more specific. You would specify the traps you want to know about. For now, we're just kind of turning the faucet on full. We're like, let us know everything that's going on. In real life, you'd be tuning that down to what you need. Copy, run, start. And we'll save that. Okay. We're now going to generate some SNMP traffic and capture that and take a peek at it. So I'm going to take my PC, the one I'm using right now. I had moved into VLAN 30 to connect to the access point. I'm going to move it into a VLAN 1 port. I'm going to move it into a VLAN 1 port. So I got to find my PC. There it is right there. And VLAN 1 is 11 to 15. Okay, 11 to 15. So I'm going to plug it into 11. Actually, it's in 12 right now. I'm going to plug it into port 12, and I'm going to need to give it a static IP. Okay, so here's our VLAN 1. Oh, I'm sorry, I have my wrong numbers. Oh, actually, no, I can use 11 to 15. 11 to 15 is VLAN 1 as well. We don't have that assigned. But I have it denoted here 21, 22, 23. But I'm going to use port 11 because that's one it's in. I'm using 12 right now. That's a VLAN 1 port. That'll work fine too. So make sure in a VLAN 1 port. We're then going to set the IP address on this guy to the static 0.10 because we don't have any DHCP on this network. So let's quick set this static IP. 192.168.0.10. 255, 255, 248, 0, 192, 168, 0.1 is the gateway. I'm going to make sure I can ping the gateway. Let's do an IP config. I'm seeing the 0.1. I should be able to ping the gateway. Good. So now it's in the network. We can ping. So I'm going to start a Wireshark session. Start a brand new Wireshark session. I'm going to close a couple windows out back here. We're going to start a brand new Wireshark session. There we go. That's running. I'm now going to reach over and I'm going to disconnect the ISP connection on this router. So I'm going to make a major fault. So I'm just going to disconnect that. Here we go. And I'm going to wait for trap messages to come in. I'm going to be looking right here. Yeah, there's a handful of traps that came in, letting us know this port is down. What's going on? This port's down. I'll wait a couple seconds. And then I'm going to reach over and I'm going to plug it back in. Now that has kind of settled out a little bit, I'll plug it back in and I'm going to watch for a couple more messages to come in. Here's some more traps. These are most likely saying, hey, this port's coming back online. All right, so I'll let that settle a second or two here because it's going to take a second or two for that to settle. And then I'll stop because I want to look at my SNMP traffic now. So I'm going to put a filter in here for SNMP. So I'm just looking at the SNMP traffic. I'll make this a little wider here. There we go. And I want to look at one of the first traps I see. This is just general info, get info. I want to look at one of the first traps I see that's coming from the router coming to me. And I want to look in here at a couple things. Ethernet header coming from Cisco to my computer. IP header coming from router to me. UDP, notice it's using UDP. SNMP is using UDP. There's your port 162, that's SNMP. And now I'm going to open SNMP header. Here's the data, here's the trap. I'm going to open up as much as I can. And what I see down here is this is letting me know a link is down on the blah, blah, blah interface. Yeah, that's the one we unplugged. That's the one we unplugged. So the router is telling me this interface is down. This message would be coming to a management station and giving you an alert that there's a problem. This is how you can know what's going on in your network without you sitting there watching. These can be programmed to send you alerts when something's going on. So I'm gonna highlight this. I'm just gonna use my down arrow and scroll through these. I'm going to see physical port link down, lost carrier. And I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to go down here till I start seeing the next batch of traps, because these are probably going to indicate that the link is back on or coming online. Yeah, here we go. This interface is now changed to up. So here's the message saying, hey, this port is coming back online. Okay, so these messages the router or devices are generating for us and sending to a station like this. And that can be alerts about what's going on in the network. This is how the management applications get their information. We program the devices and network to report to them, and they read these trap messages and interpret them to say this is down, this is not working, it's down, it'll turn it red, or it is working, it's going to turn it green. That's what we should be looking for. All right. While I'm here, I'm going to save these packets. So I'll do a file, export specified packets. And I'm going to save these. I'm going to go to my 125 Network Management Lab. And we're going to call these SNMP packet capture. And we'll leave the default file extension and we'll do save. And now we have some SNMP packets to look at. All right. When we come back in the next part, we're going to gather our device configurations, but we're going to do it in a management style.